Are the Jamo Studio Series speakers the best value out there for home theater and two-channel music? Stay tuned to find out. Well, hello YouTube. Chris the Frugal Audiophile with you here again on a very warm, windy day in the Midwest. It is December 15th and it's almost 70 degrees outside. Pretty crazy. You probably can tell it's the Christmas season. As you see some decorations around me here and some presents. But yeah, it's crazy warm out there. It's not supposed to last. We do get these kind of days every once in a while. But anyway, today we are not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about the Jamo Studio Series speakers. And so a few weeks ago, actually been a couple months now, you probably saw the unboxing. I purchased the Jamo S Series 5.0 package on Adorama for $400. That came with the 809 towers, it came with the 803 bookshelves, and it came with the S83 CEN center channel speaker. And I got this one out for our example today so that you can see the Christmas tree back here behind it. So that's why I have the center channel before today. And it's a beefy guy. It's a big center channel. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later. So I got those at an amazing price. It was just a killer deal. I couldn't pass it up. I didn't really need them. I don't have room for them in my house as an extra set. And so I picked them up primarily for review purposes. These speakers are very common. They've been reviewed to death, and they are well known as being good for the price. So I wanted to check it out. I know that I'm just another voice in the crowd reviewing them again, but maybe you'll find some information in this review that you find helpful, which you have not heard in other reviews. So to begin, I want to talk about the specs that all 5 of these speakers have in common. There's 3 series of speakers here, and I just want to talk about what they all have in common. And so I will have a full list of specs on the screen as I go through each of these. I'm not going to cover everything just for the sake of time. First of all, these are two-way speakers. They are a tweeter and a mid-range driver. There are different counts of the mid-range drivers, but they all have that design. And they are bass reflex, meaning basically that they are ported. They all have a 1-inch silk dome tweeter. There's one of them on all these speakers. No extra tweeters here, no tweeter arrays, no super tweeters. A 1-inch, very common soft dome tweeter. They don't say it's silk, they say soft. They have a 5-inch aluminized polyfiber woofer. That's a mouthful to say, and I had to do it about 6 times, so hopefully you get the good cut. But anyway, you can see here these 5-inch tweeters. They're kind of a brown metallic looking color, and then here, mid-range driver. And here you have the woofer, and the woofer has this fake vinyl wood grain wrap around it. This is not real wood. It's a wrap that is on there. It looks cool, but it's not real wood. That would, bring the price up even more on these speakers. And so that's kind of the design of them. The box on all of them is tapered, and these are an MDF cabinet with the vinyl wrap on them. There is no real wood veneer on these or finish. It is a vinyl wrap, very common in this price range. You're not going to find a lot of speakers this price range that have a real wood finish on the outside. It's just how they cut down on the cost. And these speakers, all of them are 8 ohms nominal for their impedance. Oh, I forgot to mention, one of my favorite features of them is this tweed grill. I think it looks really cool. It's kind of on the thick side, so I don't know if that impedes the sound a little bit. They are a little bright, so it doesn't really matter. More on that as we go through the review here, but I think they look really cool. I actually really like the gray grills on the white version because they're a little bit lighter and they really have a nice heathering pattern on them, and they really stand out to look unique. It's a different, I have not seen a speaker with this design in all its facets on the market in this price range, really in any price range. Not saying that's good or bad, I'm just saying it's a unique design that they have. And I think that really sets the Jamo speakers apart and makes them compelling. All these speakers have a full 5-year parts and labor warranty on. That is incredible. That is, I think, 5 times above average. So that's very nice to know that you have some peace of mind that if something goes wrong, Jamo, aka Klipsch, because they're made by Klipsch, is going to take care of you. And these are available in white, black, and walnut. And so there you have some options there. I think that's cool. My favorite is the white, but the white ones were not on sale, so I got the black here. Plus the black is more appropriate for home theater. They're not going to stand out. They're not going to pick up light reflections, anything of that nature. So the white is good for that, and that's why I picked them up. Since it is a 5.0 speaker package, I was going to use them in my home theater. If I was going to use them in a 2-channel system, in a family room or a living room, they're going to be more on display, I would probably go with the white or the walnut personally, and that's just up to you, but it's nice that there is some choices there. So now let's talk about some specs that are specific to each of the speaker types or speaker lines within this package. To begin, I want to talk about the S809 floor standing speakers. Now these speakers have 3 5-inch woofers, or excuse me, mid-range drivers on them. They call them mid-range drivers. I don't want you to get confused thinking that they are some sort of subwoofer bass monster. It's a mid-range driver, and so they're the same exact ones you have before you on this speaker, just so that you know. But there's 3 of them. Now those speakers are front ported. The towers are front ported. At the bottom of the base there is a slot port. They are all slot ported, but those ones are ported in the front. They can handle between 120 and 240 watts. Certainly you can use less. That's just where they are rated to perform optimally, 240 watts being the peak amount of power that they can handle. And the towers have a 37 hertz to 26 kilohertz frequency response. So they get fairly low. They don't get into the sub bass range. You're still going to need a sub, especially for home theater, but they do dig pretty low, and for most music, it'd be great just to use those. The tower speakers have these 4 connections on top of them, and that is to be used for an Atmos topper. Now I do not have those toppers. They were $200 just for the pair, so I decided to skip that. I don't really think that the bouncy house type of Atmos is the most optimal. I could run it with my Denon AVR X3400, but I decided to skip that. Just wanted to keep this relatively cheap and simple, but that option is there for those who want it. And it's nice that you can connect the wires to the tower. That's why there are 4 speaker connections on the back of them, 2 pairs, but one goes to the Atmos topper, and then it just, hooks onto the top, and you are in business. It helps keep things a little bit cleaner, but you have to be careful. Make sure you plug it into the right speaker connection for whatever you're trying to do. I plugged the front left speaker connection into the Atmos connection rather than the connection for the whole tower, and I was like, what is going on? Is my amplifier broken? Is something wrong with my receiver? And no, it's just dumb me connecting to the wrong binding post. And right now, the S809 tower speakers are $400 on Crutchfeild. They are more expensive on Adorama at this time, so if you want to get them, I recommend going to Crutchfeild. And I will check Amazon as well, because I know a lot of people like using that with its Prime and the convenience there. So I will check there as well, but usually if you're buying them separately, the best place to get them, the cheapest place, is going to be Crutchfeild for these speakers. Now let's look at the S803 bookshelf speakers. And so these only have 1 5-inch woofer on them. And so they are the bookshelf. That is why it saves some space. But they are also front ported. They have that same slot in the front of them as the towers do. And of course they have the single 1-inch tweeter. Their power handling is going to be 80 to 120 watts. So a little less than those tower speakers because they are a much smaller speaker. And so they don't handle quite as much power. But 120 watts is quite a bit. Rarely are you going to be pushing that much into your speakers, especially in your rear channel. So that's really nothing to worry about. And the frequency response for these speakers starts out at 57 hertz and goes all the way up to 26 kilohertz. That's going to be a common theme. They all top out there, but since it's only one driver, it's not going to hit as low as those towers do. These also have the Atmos connectors on top, so you can have rear Atmos. You can have a 5.2.4 or 2 or 6 or whatever configuration you'd like for your Atmos using these speakers. You're just going to have to buy those Atmos toppers. And these are right now on Crutchfeild $150. I think a really good price for what you're getting out of these speakers, and one of the better values in the Jamo S line all around. So finally, I want to talk about the center channel, as you see here before you. And this is the S83 center channel. There's a little bit smaller one that Jamo also has available, but my kit came with this one right here. It has the two mid-range drivers, as you can see before you, the two 5-inch, just like the other speakers, same size of a driver, but there is two of them in this one, making it an MTM design, or mid-range tweeter woofer design. But this one is rear ported, I guess just to save space. I don't know exactly why, maybe so that you wouldn't hear the port chuffing. I don't think it would a lot because it's a well-designed port, and I don't hear it on the other speakers, but it is in the back here behind the speaker. And just like the bookshelf speakers, this center channel can handle 80 to 120 watts. Now the frequency range on this one is a little bit different. For some reason, it is less than the bookshelf speakers. I'm not sure why. I mean, I just cross all of my speakers over at 80 hertz in my home theater anyway, so those specs don't matter a whole lot. But for those who are wondering, it is 67 hertz to 26 kilohertz. Since Dolby Atmos does not have a center height speaker, unlike Aural 3D, there is no Atmos topper on this speaker. I mean, placing an Atmos topper on a center channel speaker would be challenging anyway, and so it's not available. It's just not there on this one. This speaker costs $130 right now, again, on Crutchfeild. All right, so let's get into the assignment for these speakers. And their assignment is to be an outstanding speaker at a budget price. So how did they do with that? To begin, let's talk about what they got right. As I said, these speakers have been reviewed over and over again, and they've been lauded as being the best budget speaker and amazing value, the most speaker you can get for the money, so on and so forth. So did they live up to all that hype? We will see as we grade these speakers. And the first thing is a unique and attractive design. As I have said, I have not seen a speaker that looks like these ever before. It's not the most highest end design or look, but it is unique, and I find it to be attractive. I like the wood surround on the tweeter, as well as the tweed grills. It all stands out and makes them very attractive, in my opinion. Others may think they are the ugliest thing ever, but I like them. The next thing they get right is good sound. So these speakers have some stunning dynamics. I was watching The Dark Knight, one of my favorite movies, and it has some great sound effects of explosions, of shrapnel, of all those kind of things. And that opening scene of that movie where they're robbing the bank with the machine guns and the bullets and the shrapnels is flying everywhere. I was like almost shaken out of my seat. I was actually in the other room on my computer for a minute writing down some notes, and I heard the dynamics in the other room, and it pulled me out of my seat, and I ran into the other room and said, wow, what's going on with these speakers? So they have some amazing dynamics. I think their dynamics are a little bit better than my Hyperion speakers, but those are still great speakers. They just got something there, and that probably comes from their Klipsch heritage. Along with those stunning dynamics comes impactful sound. When there are effects in a movie of explosions, of glass breaking, like I said, of shrapnel flying around, all these different kind of things that we expect from our action movies, they are very impactful with these speakers. And that is because the highs definitely are tweaked up on them. And so they do those types of things very, very well. It makes watching an action movie very fun. You kind of feel like you are in the middle of the action, and it's not quite like being there, but it's pretty close. Next I'm going to highlight is that these speakers are great for vinyl. Now, many will say that these have a smiley face curve, meaning that the lows and the highs are tweaked up a little bit. So your frequency response curve looks like that, like a smiley face, as often called. I don't think that's quite what it is. I'll talk about that in the next section. But that is good for vinyl because vinyl can especially be rolled off on the high end. So a vinyl record will be like this. Well, the Jamos are going to give them a little tweak and push them up like that. So I was listening to Chicago Greatest Hits, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I love listening to it on the S809 Tower speakers. It's it sounded so lifelike, and it sounded very clear and dynamic using the Jamo speakers. I actually think vinyl sounds better on the Jamos than it does on my Hyperion speakers, and that's just because of the frequency response curve of the Jamo speakers. Also, along with that tweaked high end, you're going to have very clear dialogue, especially female voices are going to come through on these speakers. Now, it is not a perfect sounding dialogue, as we will get into later, but it is clear. If you're someone who struggles to hear dialogue, you want a speaker with that tweaked high end, because it makes it a little bit clearer, makes it stand out just a little bit more. Now, the sunken down mid-range can cause some issues, especially with men's voices, but you can tweak that, and actually voices, the highs must begin around where most voices are, because I found them to almost always come through clearly. Now, Batman's voice in The Dark Knight is very bassy, and he talks like this in the movie for most of it. Yeah, that hits more in the mid to bass range of frequency response. It still was clear, though. I mean, it's a good speaker, so it's not going to be bad, but it's not going to be perfect. Also, the bass is punchy on these speakers. I was listening to 10.8 by Deadmau5, which really, it hits you hard with the bass. So that song sounded good through the Jamos. It was enjoyable to listen to, but I could tell that the very lowest end response was missing, and as soon as I turned on my SVS subs, it came back. Finally, these are an amazing deal for the $400 that I paid for them when they were on sale, which wasn't even a Black Friday sale. I'm not sure. Adorama just decided to put them on sale in November, so I picked them up as quickly as I could because I've been wanting to check them out. Even at that $650 price range on Crutchfeild right now, if you had to put the package together, they don't have the whole package, and actually, even on Adorama, the package that I purchased now is like over $1,000. It's just crazy. And so if you were to put them together individually on Crutchfeild or even at Adorama, they'd be about the $600 to $700 range. Even at that price, they are a great deal, and I would really encourage you to pick them up. All right, so let's talk about what they get wrong. And the first thing is going to be unnatural sounding dialogue. In the previous section, I talked about how the dialogue was very pronounced and it came through very clear. That is still true, but because of those tips highs, I think it sounds a little unnatural. There is a lot of sibilant sound in the dialogue, which to me just kind of pulls me out of the film and doesn't hit my ears well. I like a smoother sound in my speakers, and so it doesn't sound quite right. It doesn't sound terrible, but I think my Hyperions sound more natural. Like when I listen to a sports broadcast with my Hyperions, I can kind of tell what kind of microphone they are hearing. I can hear the frequency response and the timbre and the dynamics and all that of the microphone that they are using, because the frequency response is so flat, those speakers are so clear. But with these, I heard the Jamo sound. I heard those tipped up highs, and I heard the rolled off mid-range and a little extra bass. And that stood true for movies as well. So I took off some points for that. As I was saying, I was watching The Dark Knight, and yes, the effects sounded amazing. They were very impactful and brought me into the movie. But once some of the characters, such as Rachel Dawes or Batman, Bruce Wayne, started speaking, it sounded unnatural, and that kind of pulled me back out of it. So,
where were you?
Where you'd have to step up?
Harvey, I know these briefs backwards.
Well, fair's fair.
So it was this very unique duality of pulling me in, but yet pulling me out. So I don't know. It's just how the speakers respond to audio. That was my experience in my room. But you know, it's not awful. They still sound really good. And I'll talk kind of more about how they compare to other gear and their price range. But that dialogue, though, when I was listening to music, I was listening to the song "The Special Two" by Missy Higgins.
She could, she'd do it all again. Sometimes every word has been used.
And that song is a torture test for speakers. It wasn't recorded very well, and her vocals are very sibilant on that, and they were quite sibilant through the Jamo S809 tower speakers. It was listenable, but wow, it did not sound natural at all. On my Hyperion speakers, it was a little bit better, but it's a torture test of a song. I have it in my repertoire of test tracks just so that I can see how they will respond to poorly recorded music, and the Jamos don't respond real well. They respond okay, but not amazing. Next area in which I took out some points was their frequency response, because it is not a flat frequency response. Now, no speaker is a completely flat frequency response. They all have their imperfections, but Jamo is very famously tipped up in the highs and in the lows. They have, like I said, a smiley face curve is what it is called, but I'm going to say it's more of a frowny curve, because although the bass is, actually, it would probably be this way for you all, so going this way, although the bass is tipped up, is not tipped up as much as the highs in my listening. And so I would say it's more of a frowny face curve. It's not a perfect curve by any means. Some people like that because it does make movies so impactful, but it can certainly have its shortcomings, as I have shared throughout this video. And in case you are wondering, the gear that I'm using to power these speakers is a Denon AVR X3400 with an Emotiva A700 amplifier, and then I do have two SVS SP12 NSD subs filling in the bass on movies, although for music I ran it in direct most of the time. And then my sources were my phone for AirPlay, for lossless music, as well as a Panasonic standard Blu-ray player. I can't remember the model number, it's not even around anymore, so it doesn't matter, but it's a Panasonic standard Blu-ray player. And I did rerun Odyssey with the Jamo speakers and got that all set up and running correctly. And I tried it both with and without Odyssey enabled. And Odyssey does help a little bit with the tipped highs, but it doesn't completely take it away. And I think I just like my Hyperion Intimate speakers. I'm used to them. I like their flatter frequency response, and I just enjoy the Hyperion house sound. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think if you like the Jamo sound better, that's great. I prefer the Hyperion sound. You know, different strokes for different folks. What am I going to give these speakers for a Frugality grade? Well, if you recall, if you remember way back in the video, their assignment was to be a great sounding speaker at an affordable price. And given that assignment, I'm going to give these speakers a straight A, because they do fulfill that assignment quite well. Now, they didn't get an A+ because of some of those dialogue issues. I did have to take off for that. Some people, they like that smiley curve, or frowny curve as I call it, sound, or smirky curve I should say. A frown is like this, a smirk is more like that. And so anyway, I digress. Some people like that sound. It's not my favorite thing, but I still think that they are a great sounding speaker at the price in which I purchased them, or even at that $650 price on Crutchfeild. I do really like them, but I will not be keeping them. As you can probably tell from this video, I'm not replacing my Hyperion Intimate speakers quite yet. I haven't found something that I like better that beats them. There are plenty of good speakers out there that compete, but I still like them better than most things that I've heard. Let's talk about my recommendation. The first one is, if you are coming from an older home theater in a box or an inexpensive soundbar. Now, there are some great soundbars out there, like the Sennheiser Ambio, some of the JBLs and Klipsch's, but they are costing, you know, $1,000 to $2,000, which is crazy to me to spend on a soundbar. And they probably have some things which they would do better than the Jamo speakers, but that's a completely different price class, and you're still dealing with a soundbar. However, if you have like a $200-300 soundbar, even a $500 soundbar that's not 5.1, or if you have one of those older home theater boxes made by like JVC or Samsung or Sony back in the day, this is going to sound better than that. Now, you have to keep in mind you're going to have to add a subwoofer and an AV receiver into that, so it's going to raise the price. Probably the least expensive AV receiver I would go with right now is the Denon AVR S750. It's on Accessories for Less for $400. The cheapest subwoofer I probably would get would either be the Jamo C10 subwoofer or an SVS SB1000. Something like that would be a good pairing for this system. Both the Jamo sub costs about $300, and the SVS, I think it's $600. Unless you can get one on a factory sale, then it's more like $450, $500. So, you know, almost as much, if not more, than the speaker package itself. But those are just amazing subwoofers in their price class. So if you have a budget of $600 to $700, put these on your short list. If you are sensitive to rolled up highs and lows, if you're sensitive to sibilants like I am, you may not enjoy these speakers. However, if you spin vinyl, you may actually really like these speakers. And I recommend, if you do spin vinyl, to get the tower speakers and a decent amplifier and a decent turntable paired with them, and you'd have yourself a nice beginner audiophile system. Well, I think we did it. That's my review of the Jamo Studio Series 5.0 speaker package. I thank you so much for watching this video, for following my channel. If you do like this kind of content, please comment down below, rate this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. Also, I am giving away a pair of the S803 bookshelf speakers, so I will link to that video. Actually, I'll link it up here. You can check that out and give that a watch. Please enter that contest. It is running until December 21st at 9 p.m. Central Time, so keep that in mind. Do you own the Jamo Studio Series speakers? What do you think of them? Do you agree or do you disagree with any of my thoughts in this review here? Remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.